40 years ago? Seriously? It just doesn't seem like it could possibly be that long. I mean, to me, it's like it was just 40 years ago. Well, hey there, folks. It's Jimmy Stewart here, hoping this is finding you all doing well. Today's video is going to be a quick one as we're going to begin the 40th anniversary of this guy right here, the Cordially album, recorded in 1982 in the wonderful Great Britain when I was over there for a number of years. This came out in 1982, and we're going to talk about the different aspects of this particular album. This is the first one I ever did. And how cool it was to be able to actually get involved in this, write, record it, and go through all the rigmaroles that everybody has to go through when you're doing your first album, especially back in 1982. And also, I wanted to bring out one of the main players of this particular album, as I do still own just about every instrument that we used on that album, I still have today. And the main guitar on that album is right here. And this is a 1954 Gibson Les Paul Jr. Some of you may have seen the reviews I've done on this and the kind of the classic vintage guitar series that I started. This was one of the first ones that I did, if not the first one that I did. And this is a 54 Les Paul Jr., completely original with the exception of the original stop piece, which is the actual wraparound bridge that was here. And when I picked this up in '76, some of the tuning keys were bent or missing, and this also did not hold the intonation very well, so I actually put a tune-o-matic bridge on it and dropped the original wraparound bridge down as a stop piece. Other than that, it's completely original, 1954, and as you can see, and again I mentioned this in another video or so, I did meet Les in 2002 in New York City, and he did sign my guitar for me, so his signature's there. Again, I've kind of retired this guitar since around 1985-86. It's just for the studio. But this was used on the Cordially album pretty much exclusively. The only other guitar, electric guitar, that was used on the Cordially album was a 1977, I believe, Silverburst Flying V. I'll show you a little picture there. So anyway, the Cordially album kind of really started back in the mid to late 70s, honestly. I started writing a bunch of stuff back then when I had my own band. I had a couple of bands back then. The first band was a band we called Opaque, and that was, the late 60s, and then around 71, I think it was, I started playing lead guitar with a band up in the Boston, Massachusetts area called Cuckoo's Nest, and that band was pretty big. We did a lot of good stuff back in the early 70s, playing a lot at the University of Massachusetts, and of course the Rusty Nail and Boston area, and the ski areas, the ski resorts and things like that. So right around that time I started doing a lot of writing, and I joined the service in 1974, the Navy, and after I joined the Navy, I was still able to play and record, and this is an example of it. When I went to Wales in 1981, I was pursuing that record deal at the same time, and Cordially was kind of what came out of it. I started doing the demos back in the late 70s, and I did the first 4-track demos of this album on a TEC Porta Studio, which I still own, a TEC 144 4-track Porta Studio that I bought brand new in 1979, and started doing the demos for this particular album. I did most of the recording in 1981, and at that time my drummer Jimmy Losos actually flew over from Chicago to the United Kingdom on a 30-day work visa, and did the drum tracks for me as we recorded the album there. The album took about a year and a half before it finally arrived in October, I believe it was, of 1982. Most of it recorded in 81, final touch-ups and things like that, and I think I wrote one new song that hadn't been written at the time prior to the album for the album, and that was the only song on the album that was actually written during the album recording time frame. All the other ones had been written prior and had been demoed prior. to the album's release. I got a distribution deal from Pinnacle Records, and the album was released only in Great Britain and in the Great Britain territories. It was not released in the United States. So the album, for a first effort, was pretty substantial. It is a trifold album with all the lyrics printed on the inside, virgin vinyl that they used in Great Britain at the time, and the album ended up being a 10-track album, which was the scope of it to begin with. We wanted 10 tracks on it, and I had around 15 to 20 that were possible for the album, and picked the final 10 when we went into final production. So if you look at the album covers in the inside and what have you, you'll see that I did everything on this album, and I did all the writing, of course, the lyrics, the music. I played all the guitars, I played the bass guitars, I played the strings and synths, I did the keyboards, and I actually did some of the percussive sounds after Jimmy had to leave. Little hand claps here, cymbals hits here, and those types of things, as Jimmy did the drumming tracks for the album. I produced and engineered the album. This was all done on TEAC equipment at the time, TEAC 8-track with a recording desk, and everything was mixed down to a Revox B77 at 30 IPS. The master tracks were then sent to Utopia Studios in London, and they did the final mix and the final production cut of the actual album. So in today's example, we're going to take the last cut on the second side, in other words, the ending track of side B, or of the actual album, which is the title of the album, Cordially. And what I was doing in this was trying to put out my frustration to the record companies at the time. I had sent demos to everybody, MCA, EMI, Chrysalis, Warner Brothers, you name it, and they were all very nice, and they all got back to me, and that's what you'll see on the back of that album cover, is you'll see all the rejection letters that I got from all the different major studios at the time. And that's what Cordially really is about. So let's have a listen to the song, and then we'll talk about some of the quirkiness of that particular track after it's over. Let's have a listen. So the thing about Cordially, it's kind of quirky. It has very abrupt starts and stops. I liked that style of music back then. I thought it sounded pretty cool. And I used some kind of unorthodox start and stop pieces in that track, along with a kind of weird, I considered weird anyway, lead solo in the center. I would kind of want to make it Middle Eastern type sounding. And what I'm doing in the beginning is using that kind of weird thing there. And basically it's a combination of your E flat up to the E, up to the F, and then with a C, C sharp, D bottom. So it's and I'm palm muting and picking at the same time. Now some of the interesting attack on that, and the little secret that I have for you here on recording that particular track is that track was done on this guitar. I think I used the 77 Flying V as the second guitar, and they were done directly to the board, no amplifier at all, and I was using that guy right there, yes, an MXR compressor pedal, the Dunlap, pretty much cranked out to give it as much sustain in that high pick attack that I could get. And that guitars were done, again, with no amp at all. They were done directly into the board using the MXR Dynacomp. Not as much reverb though. But anyway, that's how that was done. And then the solo, again, everything was pretty clean. The inside solo. Was like so. It's as simple as that. And the track itself is, once it goes up to the E, so you got your to the E. Now, if you wanted to put some gruffness on it, but I didn't. I played it clean. Except I didn't have nearly that reverb mix on there. So I'm going to bring the reverb down. And that's what I was doing. And then on the other guitar I was going. And that was it. Now, like I said, on this particular album, I had pre-written about 20 songs, and it took a little while for me to figure out which 10 I was going to end up using. And I did write a song specifically for the album and took off songs that I was going to use that I decided didn't kind of fit the overall thing of this particular album. So, you know, this has got a lot of acoustic stuff on it, which was big for me at the time. I was trying to do like a, I don't know, like a mix between an acoustic and a electric album, but trying to keep it without being too overly rocked out, but I was also trying to make it interesting at the same time. So again, what we'll do, folks, if you are interested in learning more about the process of doing this particular LP and what we had to go through back in the 1981-82 time frame, let me know here in the comments, and I'll do my best to try to do some more picking out tunes from this particular album and showing you how we went about actually doing it, or how I went about doing it, because I did the entire album with the exception of the drums on my own. And we have, and this is the great thing, we have the original equipment, some of it, but we have the original instruments that were used on that album as well. The guitar, with the exception of the 77 Flying V, I no longer have the Flying V, but I have this guitar, which was the one that was used prominently on there. The acoustic guitar that was used prominently on there is a 76 Ovation 1612 Balladeer. I still have that guitar. The bass guitar of all the tracks on there was done on a 76 Fender P-Bass, and I still have that original guitar here in the studio. And the strings that were done was on a brand new, at the time, 81 synthesizer that I had picked up when I was in London. And that is actually right back here. It is an 81 Seal Orchestrator made in Italy, and it had some very sweet strings for a very early type of synth, and that is still in the studio as well. So more to come on Cordially, the 40th anniversary. I hope you enjoyed the first little part here. And again, I got to run because I got to be out of town, and we won't be back until next week. So hopefully we'll see you then. Until next time, folks, it's Jimmy Stewart saying so long, take care of yourselves, please stay safe, please stay healthy, and we'll talk to you all again very, very soon. Bye-bye for now. Wow, well, happy 40th anniversary.